Hey guys, so today we're going to talk about hydraulics, and basically what that is a fluid that's used to move cylinders, or you can use it to move motors. And there's a pump inside of this rig that is going to be pumping hydraulic fluid around, and then when you pull different levers or different things in the cab, it's going to move these hydraulic actuators, which are commonly referred to as cylinders. When you push oil in one end, it's going to push or extend the cylinder out. When you push oil in the other end, up here I can't even point to it, the stuff's too far away from me. When you push oil in through this line that I'm showing, that will retract or suck this cylinder back in. When oil pushes into the top, that's what's going to extend it out. So I've got a hydraulic cylinder to rebuild today on a different piece of equipment to show you, but we're going to play with this a little bit so you can see it operating. Alright, looks like Sawyer is ready to go. So we're going to let him play with us a little bit. I'm probably going to be in there with him while he's doing it though. Okay, so on our farm equipment, you might use hydraulics to, lift up an implement or lower it or extend and retract the booms and things like that. This is an excavator, like an earth moving machine, so we're going to use our hydraulics to lift the bucket, and it's doing this by pumping oil. So I've got these big lift cylinders here beside me. They actually operate the main boom, and you can tell here at the top of that line, like right now, we'll be pushing oil into that, and that's going to lower this boom by retracting the shiny metal cylinder. We call that a ram. And when we pump oil into the bottom of this, it's going to extend that ram. You can kind of see that moving out, and then the results are over here, we're raising this thing up. So hydraulics are awesome, and they let us just deliver a lot of power where we need it. And again, all we're doing, we've got a pump on this machine. It's going to be pumping that hydraulic fluid around, and a pump's purpose is to create pressure, and then we use that pressure to move the cylinders, or in some cases you might use that hydraulic pressure to turn a hydraulic motor to operate other things. And in fact, on this will have a little hydraulic motor that operates the feature that is going to spin or rotate this whole piece of equipment around. So it's got a turntable on it. You can see the tracks are staying still, and it's just the top of the machine is rotating. That's going to be a little hydraulic motor that gets oil pumped into it, and it can spin either direction depending on which way we run it. I mean, these things are going to be used for other things too, but on this piece of equipment, that's what we're doing with our hydraulic motor. It's just spinning basically a gear, and it's rotating the top of this excavator around, so we can do all kinds of things with it. So it's kind of difficult to hold the camera and operate everything I need to right here, but just because I've got this and this is fun, we're gonna take a little scoop of dirt just so you guys can kind of see and appreciate the power of this. And I'll shoot a video maybe myself beside this bucket so you can get an idea of the size. I mean, that thing's about 20 feet away from where I'm sitting right now, roughly. And it's just, man, this stuff's just cool. I get excited about this stuff. So here we go. We'll let Sawyer hold on to the camera here for a second. You got her, Sawyer?
Yep. And it's moving.
And I forget how many yards this bucket is, but I mean, it can pick up some dirt. Right now, I mean, this machine is just sitting here idling. I mean, that gives you an idea of just the amount of power it has in it. So enough there to make quite a nice pile. So I mean, anyway, that's just that's hydraulics and fluid dynamics that make all this stuff possible. We'll take a cylinder apart here on another machine we have that's got a leak in it, so you can see how the cylinders are put together. But remember a couple things. You got a pump. Its main job is to create flow. The resistance to that flow is going to be what creates pressure to operate in these different actuators, which are commonly called cylinders. You pump oil on one end and it'll extend them, and you pump oil in the other end and it's going to retract those cylinders and raise and lower things. This lets us do cool things, everything from running your basic log splitter to raising farm equipment up and down, to running the hydraulic motor that lets us spin this thing side to side. Man, there's just all sorts of cool stuff. Hydraulics are even used, somewhat manually, in like a bottle jack that you would use to, raise up a car, or a floor jack in a shop. Okay guys, in agriculture and construction and all sorts of stuff, we use hydraulics for powering equipment and moving things. On this rogator, this is kind of a cool feature. This thing can actually change its track width, or how far apart the wheels are set, based off of the width of the rows that you're trying to drive in. So we're going to replace a seal in this cylinder that will actually control and push the wheels out for different settings while still keeping it lined up so that the toe in and stuff on it is still right. Okay, so to rebuild these cylinders, we got to use a spanner wrench, and that's going to fit on there. And it's going to move real easily.
It doesn't move.
Now, this is actually a real life rebuilding of a hydraulic cylinder, and not something prepared specifically for a YouTube video. Hang on.
That's all it is.
You just have to catch it.
No.
Is there audio on these?
No.
Oh, damn.
There it is. Yeah, great. Now you gotta write sentences.
Hold up a little bit. I think it might be coming out of an angle.
All right.
Jeez. All right, so the reason we took this whole thing apart was to replace all of these different seals. So this is the end cap that we had to take off, and it's got a dust seal in here. That's the blue one, and that green one inside was actually the one that was leaking, and that's what keeps oil from just pouring out from around the ram. And this one had started to leak and was actually dripping a little bit. So this seal right here, seals the outside of this and keeps oil out. And this is going to be the part that's actually on the ram that operates it. And those seals help it maintain oil pressure. So when oil's on this side, pushing that way, it doesn't leak past. And when oil's on this side, pushing that way, it doesn't leak past the other side. So that's not going to come out. That'll make the pushing power reduced on your cylinder if oil seeps past that while they're working. Cool. Stop. Alright, so this piece is basically a hollow tube, and you're going to have a hydraulic hose on one end and one on the other on a dual action cylinder. They also make single action cylinders that only push on one end, use gravity to push them back. But this one's dual action, so when you move the lever in the cab, you're either pushing oil into one side or the other. So when this thing is all together, that means you're either pushing oil on this side to push this thing out, or you're pushing oil on this side, and it's going to push against this, and that's going to retract that cylinder in. And then this piece right here is the end cap, and that's what seals off the end of it. Okay, so they have different ways of keeping these end caps in. Some of them are threaded, and some of them have different kinds of keepers. And this one has got a groove inside of there. You can see it's kind of tough to see, the lighting's not good, but it's got a little bit of a groove there, and it's got a groove right here. And this little piece here is the keeper, and you can see that little hook on the end of it, the little hook shape there, that goes into this hole. Let me move around. And That's going to sit in the groove on this and sit on the groove inside of that cylinder, and that's what keeps this from coming out. There's a little slot right there, and that's how you get this thing started. You hook that hook into that end cap, and then you twist it, and this will twist in with it and end up in that groove on both the slot and the cylinder here, and that's what's going to keep that thing together. We might have to put the spanner wrench on it and back it up just a little bit. Yeah, and strange as it is, that is what keeps that whole thing together. So that'll have like thousands of pounds per square inch of pressure pushing on the end of this cap, and pushing on that cylinder on the inside of it, and that little piece of stock right there that rolls around and sits in those two grooves keeps the whole thing from flying apart. Alright, so this is actually the opposite side of it, but it would pump oil in this side, and that would push this ram out and extend this, or oil on this side, and that would retract it, and that's actually going to adjust the width of our tires in this irrigator. So that's about as fun as it gets. All we got to do is put the pins in and hook the hoses back up. And then I'm going to go get something to eat. So I will talk to you guys later. I find a lot of my videos in them with I'm going to go get something to eat, but that's usually what I do. Talk to you later. Bye.